They claim an empire may be destroyed by a single piece of evidence. And that day has finally come for Kirk Frost. After years of carefully guarded secrets, betrayals, and rumors, Jasmine has returned with something far more harmful than words: receipts. And not just any receipts, the type that are unflappable, unleaving, and devoid of opportunity for justifications. Her discovery has the potential to destroy Kirk's whole universe. It's evidence that goes beyond private trades, secret texts, and adulterous transactions that reveal a side of him that no one has ever seen. The guy who used to present himself as a wise and devoted spouse. Jasmine dumps the proof just before the businessman is ready to suffer the ultimate exposure. Alliances fall apart, jaws drop, and Kirk's meticulously crafted career is on the verge of disintegrating. And there's no turning back once the truth is out. No one, not even Kirk Frost, anticipated the bombshell, even though the tension had been building for months. To the public, Kirk remained the family guy, the businessman, and the seasoned reality TV personality who had survived every adversity and maintained his profession. With Rashida at his side, he had created an empire, earned millions from TV, music, and sponsorships, and even used prior controversies as springboards to further his notoriety. However, things weren't as stable behind the scenes as they seemed. The rumors had started to circulate once again. Rumors of dubious transactions, late-night gatherings, and the exchange of confidential funds. As usual, Kirk dismissed it, sure that no one could prove anything. He had escaped punishment for worse previously. He believed it would be the same this time. He was unaware that Jasmine, who had been mute for years, was observing. Jasmine had been portrayed as the antagonist, the other lady, and the one who destroyed the house. Kirk hoped the world would forget the controversy. Fans had ridiculed her in front of the camera and called her everything from desperate to insane. However, nobody was aware of Jasmine's powerful evidence, and she had decided it was time to put it to use after all Kirk had done. A folder was the first thing. Screenshots of months' worth of SMS exchanges were included. Discussions between Kirk and a business colleague about money laundering, offshore accounts, and unlawful payments. The pictures then surfaced, showing Kirk doing trades he said didn't exist and holding covert encounters with strangers at locations he never identified. Last but not least, there were bank records, wire transactions from shell corporations, hush money payments to individuals who were never allowed to speak, and even receipts for opulent presents bought with company money. Cheating was no longer the only thing at stake. This was stuff that would end a career. Kirk may lose everything if the public learned about this proof, not just Rashida. For weeks, Jasmine held on to the evidence, not knowing whether she should make it public. A part of her desired retribution for the years of deceit and contempt. Another part of her desired justice, not only for herself, but also for Rashida, the deceived fans, and the truth. However, there was no doubt that the moment had arrived. When production for a new Love and Hip Hop Atlanta reunion special started, the chance arose. For the first time in 2 seasons, Jasmine was asked back by the producers, who were desperate for drama and viewers. A few heated remarks were to be anticipated. Well, perhaps a fight, but they didn't know what she had in mind. Before Jasmine took the stage, the reunion was already uncomfortable. Rashida had spoken candidly about starting again. The crowd seemed prepared to accept Kirk's public apology for his previous transgressions, but then something changed. A manila package was in Jasmine's hands as she entered with a composed, even frigid bearing. "Prior to us." "Get started!" she shouted, interrupting the discussion in the middle of a phrase. "I believe that everyone should see the truth, but Rashida in particular." There was silence in the room. Kirk's expression altered at once. His self-assured grin disappeared, replaced by a terrified expression. That tone was familiar to him. He had been dreading the day Jasmine would come for him for years. And now it was taking place. "What are you discussing?" Kirk's voice cracked a little as he asked. "This," Jasmine said. "Everything you've been keeping is in the envelope. Every lie, every dime, and every indication that your little flawless facade is based on corruption." The room was filled with gasps. Rashida seems perplexed as well. Without saying another word, her voice trembled as she said, "What proof?" In front of host Mona, Jasmine positioned the envelope on the table in the middle of the stage. It included a USB disk, a number of printed screenshots, and photocopies bank documents. After carefully flipping over the pages, Mona's eyes widened. "Jasmine," said Mona in a whisper, "this is a major matter." Jasmine answered quietly, "It's real." Kirk has been concealing money, lying about business endeavors, and using his firm to cover up stuff you don't even want to hear about. Every text, every transfer, every dirty deal. Kirk was captured on camera. His brow was starting to perspire. His voice betrayed his attempt to shrug it off. This is absurd. She is only attempting to destroy me. Ruin you? Jasmine retaliated. Kirk, no, you did that on your own. The audience burst out. Incredulous, the cast muttered to one another. A few people covered their lips in shock. While others gazed at Rashida, anticipating her response, she remained still, her thoughts whirling as she took in each word. As she turned the pages, Mona said, "This isn't just a scandal. Legal issues might arise if this is real. Careers might be lost as a result." Jasmine's arms were folded. That's right. Additionally, Kirk has been lying to everyone, particularly Rashida, while appearing untouchable, which is why I kept it. Additionally, that the world should be aware. Kirk's mask fell off entirely. He screamed, "You have no idea what you're talking about. Of that, half is phony." Jasmine asked, "Then explain it. Describe the payments. Describe the fraudulent businesses. Describe how the funds vanished from accounts Rashida isn't even aware of." Kirk was stunned for the first time. He lacked a prepared statement, an explanation, or a cunning justification. There was no way to twist the facts, which was there in black and white. At last, Rashida said something. "Is that accurate?" she asked. Her eyes were fixed on Kirk as she questioned quietly. Unable to face her eyes, Kirk glanced down at the table and said, "Did you do all this?" "I can explain." "No," she answered, getting to her feet. Rashida knew the answer in her heart, but she said, "I don't want explanations. I want the truth." She also came to a realization that she had been trying to ignore for years as the cameras rolled and the evidence accumulated. This was more than simply a failed marriage. She couldn't forgive this level of deception. It seemed as if the room had stopped breathing. Every startled look and every little gesture was captured on camera. Kirk sat still, his mouth open but unable to speak. Satisfied that the truth had finally surfaced after years of deceit and manipulation, Jasmine stood composedly with her arms crossed. Rashida just gazed at the papers strewn all over the table. Another stab to the heart with every page. She had trusted Kirk's claim that the past was behind them for years. When he assured her that there would be no more lies or secrets, she believed him. Now, however, their assurances were meaningless in front of millions. The evidence, the transactions, and the screenshots all presented an entirely different picture. And treachery was no longer the only issue. It was deception, the only issue. It was deception. Theft was committed. Corruption was the cause. The stillness was broken by Rashida Jasmine. "I didn't do something to make you seem bad. I took this action because you have a right to know your true spouse." After all these years, Rashida gulped hard and blinked back tears. "And darling, you continued to lie. Those transactions, they're complicated," Kirk eventually remarked, his voice shaking. "It's not what you think. The business world is complex. You are aware of how this sector operates." "Complicated," Rashida said again, raising her voice. "You had money hidden somewhere. You misled investors. You were moving funds into accounts that I was completely unaware of. It's not difficult. It's a premeditated move." Even the normally calm Mona was having trouble keeping control of the set. The audience muttered in agreement. "Kirk," she began slowly, "these papers are quite dangerous if they are authentic. Here we're discussing possible legal concerns. This goes beyond a simple controversy." With his confidence mask long gone, Kirk massaged his face with both hands. He argued that this was all out of context. It is not what it seems to be. Jasmine refused to accept it. After that, explain to everyone why you transferred $50,000 to an offshore account using a fictitious business name. Explain to them why you were giving hush money to individuals. Explain to them why you were using a shell company that was registered in your cousin's name to transfer money. Kirk parted his lips, then shut them again. No justification, no witty retort, nothing. Rashida stated in a trembling but firm voice, "This isn't about me anymore. It's about your actions and the fact that you have once again made me feel ashamed." She got to her feet, cautiously and gently approached Jasmine. For the first time in years, the two ladies were standing together with a mutual understanding rather than yelling or mayhem. Both of them had been duped and deceived, but now the truth brought them together. "Thank you," murmured Rashida in a low voice. Jasmine gave a nod. Whispers ran across the studio. "You deserved better." The change in intensity was felt even by the crowd. Rashida was not the same person who had previously stood up for Kirk in every controversy. This lady had had enough of justifications. A lady prepared to take back her authority. A lady who was prepared to recover her authority. Chaos followed Kirk offstage as the night's reunion shooting came to a conclusion. His phone was constantly buzzing with calls from the network, his business partners, and his lawyer. Already there were rumors that he may be the subject of an internal probe. Sponsors threatened to back out of agreements. Outraged by the transactions that were revealed, one business colleague even called for an urgent meeting. Rashida sat quietly on the side of her bed at home. Her thoughts were racing as she gazed out the window at the shimmering city lights. Because of decisions she hadn't made, her life and all she had created were falling apart. Her cell rang. Her manager had sent her a note. "We must speak. All of our brands may be impacted by this." She let out a sigh. It could, of course. Kirk lied about more than just himself. They were competent. This controversy may bring down every agreement, sponsorship, and brand they have created together. Kirk entered the bedroom later that evening. He seemed worn out and almost defeated. Quietly, "We need to talk," he whispered. Rashida didn't even give him a glance. "Talk about what?" "More falsehoods. Please," he urged, taking a step towards her. "I need your attention. Why?" At last, she looked him in the eyes and snapped. "So you may give me another justification. Tell me it isn't what it seems to be." "It is what it seems to be, Kirk. Once again, treachery occurs. It's worse this time, however. It has to do with business." He made an effort to clarify. "I needed to take action. I have to keep us safe." "Keep us safe," bitterly, she laughed. "You were defending yourself. You were keeping money hidden from everyone, including investors and myself. Regarding our money, you were dishonest. You misrepresented yourself. Look where we are today." She resisted Kirk's attempt to take her hand. "I messed up," he said. "However, I can resolve this." "You cannot," she answered icily. "This isn't a mistake, therefore you can't correct it. You are who you are." Her remarks were more profound than anything she had ever spoken. For the first time, Kirk's face crumbled as he saw the harm was irreparable. The days that followed were much worse. The media quickly seized onto Jasmine's evidence. Potential lawsuits were the talk of the headlines. Criminal charges and IRS probes. Partnerships were abandoned by investors. Overnight, one of Kirk's largest endorsement contracts was canceled. Piece by piece, the empire he had constructed on false pretenses was falling apart. Jasmine's evidence, however, was no longer solely in her possession, but was now in the hands of solicitors. The legal team of Rashida has started an internal assessment of each business they owned. Kirk's name was gradually being eliminated from brand arrangements and contracts. Every financial choice was scrutinized, and Rashida struggled with the inevitable choice in secret. A part of her still holds on to the memories they had made together, the family they had created, and the years they had spent together. The stronger side, however, was aware that remaining would require making all the concessions. By the end of the week she stood for, she had decided. She requested the documents over the phone from her attorney. It would not be a simple task. It was painful, nasty, and public, but it was required. In addition to shattering her heart, the man she had once trusted had endangered her heritage. She would never be able to forgive it. There was nothing but anarchy in the days that followed. In real time, Kirk's formerly flawless and impenetrable environment was collapsing. A new issue, a new discovery, or a new headline appeared every hour. The banks were phoning. The IRS has formally opened an investigation against his companies. Everywhere he went, cameras followed, and partners he had known for years didn't pick up his phone. I'm hungry for the downfall of a guy who used to look invincible. For Rashida, no roaring battle could compare to the quiet at home. Kirk had been temporarily expelled from the home while she worked things out. However, she felt in her heart that there was nothing more to discover. She used to adore a guy who wasn't merely a liar. He was a manipulator, a liar, and perhaps a criminal today. She met with brand managers, accountants, and solicitors throughout the day, using a fine-tooth comb to go over every aspect of their finances. Something terrible was revealed on each page. Unauthorized withdrawals, secret accounts, and dubious alliances. It seemed as if she had never met the guy to whom she had been married. 2. The money and the lies weren't the toughest part for a long time. It was a breach of confidence. Kirk had deceived her not just as a spouse, but also as a business associate. The empire they co-founded and the brand they established were now in jeopardy, due to his conceit and selfishness. Rashidita and her lawyer were looking through financial paperwork one afternoon when she discovered something that completely stopped her cold. She had never heard of the business to which the $250,000 was transferred. She instantly recognized the name of the receiver, a lady. Jasmine was the one. She was brought back to reality by the voice of her lawyer. He said, "Do you know this person?" Slowly, Rashidita nodded. Everything became worse when I realized I know exactly who she is. Kirk had cheated on Jasmine too. It wasn't just treachery anymore. It was theft. He had used their money, their company money, to help her. Rashidita had supper with two of her best friends, Yandi and Carly, that night. This time the cameras weren't rolling. Yandi added, "This was personal. Girl, you look exhausted," as soon as she took a seat. When Rashida said, "I feel exhausted," Carly leaned forward and said, "Every day I learn something new, and every time it's worse than I thought." "You're really going to get a divorce, aren't you?" Rashida let out a sigh. "I have no other option. He didn't just turn on me. He put all we had built in jeopardy. He's attempting to bring me down with him now." Yandi said strongly that you owe him nothing. Not forgiveness, not loyalty, nothing. Rashida nodded, but it still ached in the back. A part of her still mourned the life she believed she had. The family, the relationship, and the dream, despite her outward strength. Now it was gone, replaced by hard facts and legal documentation. Kirk, meanwhile, was in a downward spiral. The places in the business that had formerly praised him were no longer open to him. He was shunned by old pals. One by one, the endorsements came out. Additionally, the IRS probe is imminent. There was a very serious chance of criminal prosecution. He attempted to contact Rashida. She ignored the several texts and dozens of calls. Nothing else could be said. He had said it all before, and it was all untrue. Desperate, he unexpectedly arrived at the residence one evening. A part of Rashida wanted to hear his words, but she thought about not answering the door. She needed resolution. His first words were, "Please," as she opened the door. "Give me 5 minutes, please." 5 minutes, she answered icily. When Kirk entered, he seemed smaller than she had ever seen him. "Then you leave." He said, "I know you hate me, and I'm worthy of it. However, I assure you that I never intended for any of this to occur." "It was never your intention." Rashida said it again, her voice trembling with rage. "You had no intention of cheating. It wasn't your intention to lie. You didn't intend to give her money that you had stolen from our business." Kirk lowered his head. "I erred." "No," she firmly stated. "Ignoring an anniversary is a mistake. In a debate, it's a mistake to say something you don't mean. It wasn't a mistake what you did. There were many options, and all of them were self-centered." Kirk's eyes welled with tears. "I lost everything." Silently, he said, "My name, my family, and my career. They weren't lost," Rashida remarked. "You discarded them." Kirk didn't say anything for a long time. "Is there any possibility that we can resolve this?" Rashida responded right away, "No." Nothing struck Kirk more forcefully than that one word. There was just cold, unquestionable finality. No yelling, no fighting, no dramatic showdown. "I'm going to file for divorce," she said. "Additionally, I'm closing down every company we co-founded. I am nothing and you are nothing from now on." With tears running down his cheeks, Kirk nodded. "Good," she murmured, making her way to the door. "I understand. Now leave." The door shut behind Kirk as he left the home. A chapter of Rashida's life also passed along with it. She felt free for the first time in years. Happiness did not provide that type of freedom. It was the kind that accompanied tranquility, the assurance that she would never again allow someone to break her in this way. Rashidita met with her solicitors the next morning and signed the preliminary documents to dissolve their business partnership and marriage. The path ahead was lengthy, replete with court cases, financial conflicts, and public examination. She wasn't afraid, however. She had persevered through worse. She wasn't simply getting by this time. She was getting up. Additionally, people all around the globe came together to support her once the divorce was made public online. She was no longer being referred to as a victim. They were referring to her as she really was. A queen, a survivor, a lady who refused to let the treachery of others define her. The news cycle never stopped. Once associated with music and business, Kirk's name was now associated with controversy and shame. Bit by bit, his empire was falling apart, and there was no turning back this time. Rashida, on the other hand, was beginning a new phase of her life. She was suddenly in the spotlight, speaking for herself and creating something new out of the wreckage her husband left behind, when before she had remained quietly by his side. However, recovery wasn't simple. The anguish continued to weigh heavily in her chest, even as the legal papers progressed, and the world applauded her bravery. Power. Her chest was still heavy with agony. On certain nights, she would lie awake reliving every lie, betrayal, and instance in which she had decided to put her faith in someone who wasn't deserving of it. She experienced more than just heartache. It was humiliation. Given her strength and intelligence, how could she have failed to see the warning signs? How could she have allowed him to repeatedly deceive her? She then reminded herself that she wasn't there out of weakness. It was affection. Furthermore, love, no matter how strong, is not a justification for continuing to put up with rudeness. Rashida made her first public appearance after the divorce news broke one day when she sat down for an exclusive interview. The world waited to hear her side of the tale as the cameras rolled. She said, "I won't lie first. I gave all I had to someone who didn't appreciate it, and now I'm giving everything I have to myself. This has been the most agonizing but liberating chapter of my life." The interview went viral within hours, and fans flooded social media with messages of support. Women shared their own stories of betrayal, calling Rashida's journey inspiring, empowering, and real. She had unknowingly become a symbol not just of strength, but of rebirth. Kirk, on the other hand, was spiraling. His finances were frozen, and his reputation was destroyed. When the interviewer asked if she hated Kirk for what he did, Rashida calmly responded, "I don't hate him." Opportunities disappeared. And when the IRS formally opened a criminal case into the shell companies associated with his name, it felt like the last nail in the coffin. Despite this, he couldn't stop thinking about Rashida, watching her interviews and scrolling through her social media to see the empire she was now building without him. It was painful, but he knew deep down that he had done this to himself. One evening, he showed up at a love and hip-hop filming location without warning. "The pro, what brings you here?" "I needed to see you," she replied in a firm voice. "I needed to apologize not to win you back," Kirk said, "because I've finally realized what I've lost." "And what precisely did you lose?" Rashida said, crossing her arms. "Everything," he said in a whisper. At one point, such words would have warmed her heart. "You, my family, my reputation, my name, everything I built means nothing without you." However, it is no longer the case. Calmly, "You didn't lose me," she murmured. "You threw me away, and now you have to live with that." Tears filled Kirk's eyes. "I know I can't fix this. I know you'll never forgive me, but I hope one day you'll remember me as more than my mistakes." "I don't hate you, Kirk," she said quietly. She turned and left after saying, "But I'll never look at you the same way again." Kirk didn't pursue her for the first time either. As the weeks went by, Rashida's life kept changing. He just stood there watching the woman he had betrayed choose herself over him. She started a new company that had nothing to do with the things she had created with Kirk. She established a charity to aid women in their recovery from financial abuse and betrayal, signed new contracts, and worked with influential women in the field. Each action was a proclamation. "I am more than my past experiences." However, there remained relics of the past even as she rebuilt. Her lawyer phoned one day with some shocking news. Jasmine had sued Kirk, alleging that he had agreed to pay her money in exchange for her quiet. The lawsuit guaranteed that Kirk's legal issues would not be resolved anytime soon, and further raised awareness of the incident. However, Rashida no longer had to deal with it. He wasn't married to her. She wasn't a business associate of his. She wasn't on his side. She had freedom. She threw a special dinner for her closest friends on the anniversary of the day she filed for divorce. They raised a glass to power and freedom, 2 fresh starts. Everyone applauded, and Rashida's laughter was sincere for the first time in years as Yandi lifted her glass and exclaimed, "Here's to Rashida, the woman who lost everything and gained more than she ever imagined." She wasn't trying to mask her grief by laughing. She had really moved on from Kirk, which is why she was laughing. See the event virtually, via social media, via the warped prism of a life that no longer included him. Her world had previously revolved around him. He knew the truth in his heart, but now he was just a footnote in her life. His career wasn't over because Jasmine had just dropped a receipt. She had set off a series of events that destroyed his identity. There were no fireworks for this saga's last episode. There was no courtroom brawl, no yelling match, and no dramatic conclusion. No yelling match, and no dramatic conclusion. Rather, like the last page of a book you never imagined finishing, it came subtly. It had been months. Kirk's career was ruined by the proof that Jasmine dropped. Rashida has changed along with the world. What had previously seemed like the end of the world had become a fresh start, a phase in which she was no longer defined by the errors of others. For the first time in a long time, she felt content and free. Her days were filled once again, but not in a depleting, tiresome kind. They had a lot of goals. She was starting a mentoring program for young women in business, growing her fashion empire, and getting ready to publish a novel detailing her transformation from betrayal to empowerment. Each project she worked on evolved into gold. She finally believed in herself, and the audience did too, not because she was attempting to prove anything. She was now revered by fans who had earlier pied her. She was now regarded by industry insiders who had previously undervalued her. She was more than the wife of Kirk Frost. She was Rashida, a brand, a survivor, a businesswoman, and a force to be reckoned with. However, Kirk's fame continued to decline as Rashida's continued to soar. Jasmine's receipts had far-reaching legal ramifications. A number of financial infractions, including tax evasion and fraudulent transactions, were discovered during the IRS inquiry. 2 of his businesses were shut down. Numerous business associates brought legal action against him. Additionally, he lost millions of dollars and the confidence of almost everyone in the sector, even though he escaped prison time by reaching a sizable settlement. Once revered in Atlanta's entertainment industry, Kirk was now seen as a cautionary tale, a guy who had it all and lost it all due to greed, treachery, and hubris. Industry event invitations stopped coming in. Before they even made it to the negotiating table, deals fell through. The hardest part was probably that the calls ceased. People used the past tense while discussing him in interviews. He was a gifted entrepreneur. He played a crucial role. He used to be dependable, but that is no longer the case. Kirk understood in his heart that he was solely responsible for his own actions. He sat by himself in a practically deserted office one rainy afternoon, the last relic of where his kingdom once stood. The walls that had formerly held prize trophies and platinum records were now empty. The building was no longer occupied by the workers. The quiet was overwhelming. Divorce papers were in a single envelope on his desk. His autograph was all that was left. For a while, he gazed at them as if signing them would make everything come to life. Then he took up the pen and wrote his name, breathing shakily. Their narrative ended abruptly, along with their marriage and relationship. Their narrative was ended, partnership. Rashida, meantime, was getting ready for a celebration, a novel sort of event across town. Not of a conclusion, but of everything that she had conquered. The event served as the inaugural party for her new charity foundation, Rise Up, which assists women in re-establishing their lives after financial abuse, betrayal, and manipulation. The beautiful, star-studded, and profoundly significant event served as a testament to her progress. Rashida was overcome with emotion as she spoke, gazing out at the audience, her friends, family, admirers, and the ladies whose lives she had impacted. A year ago, she said, "I thought my life was over. I thought the betrayal I experienced would define me forever. But I stand here today not as a victim, but as proof that no matter how badly someone tries to break you, you can always rebuild. You can always rise." The audience exploded in cheers. Rashida grinned as cameras flashed and tears fell down her cheeks. She had a real grin that came from strength and self-love, not the forceful one she had previously worn for cameras. Rashida emerged onto the balcony with a view of the Atlanta cityscape later that evening as the celebration came to an end and the guests left. Both she and the city were vibrant and full of life. She was free of any nagging thoughts and unpleasant recollections. The future was hers too, and the past was behind her, right? Her cell rang. The SMS came from an unidentified number. "I'm glad for you." "Yes, I am." Kishi gazed at the message briefly before deleting it without responding. Nothing else could be said. Rashida closed her eyes and inhaled deeply as the lights of Atlanta sparkled under her. At last, the chapter with Kirk Frost was really ended. No more secrets, no more betrayals, no more falsehoods. Kirk's career had been permanently terminated by Jasmine's earnings, but they had also accomplished something else, something far more significant. Rashida was free to be all that she was destined to be because of them. She was no longer the lady standing in the shadow of another. The light was her. Heartbreak is the conclusion of some tales. Retaliation is the end of others. This one, however, concludes with rebirth. Jasmine's choice to reveal the truth did more than simply put an end to Kirk's career. It put a stop to the pattern of deceit, manipulation, and treachery that had characterized Rashidida's life for an excessive amount of time. Once threatening to ruin her, the receipts became the flame that ignited her. There is more to free Rashida's quest than meets the eye. TV drama serves as a potent reminder that you may overcome adversity and yet achieve more success than you ever imagined. Everything might be lost, the dream, the love, and the trust, and yet create something more powerful from the ashes. Most importantly, your tale does not stop with betrayal. The new one is just getting started. If someone has ever deceived you, deceived or made to feel inferior, take this as a sign. You're not damaged. You don't have no power. You're evolving. Like Rashida, you will eventually look back and give thanks to those who attempted to shatter you because they taught you how to stand higher. However, the drama is far from finished. Every conclusion in the world of love and hip-hop Atlanta brings with it new secrets, betrayals, and startling realities that have yet to be revealed. Thus, click the subscribe button, enable alerts, and remain logged in. You haven't seen anything yet if you believe this to be explosive. Everything is about to change in the next chapter. Thing is about to change in the next chapter.